Last time on Fourth Wing, Violet proved her superior virtue by pointlessly defending the little dragon and standing up to the bullies. In a move I really should have seen coming, the book broke its own rules so that Violet could have two dragons. It turned out that one of Violet's new dragons is mates with Xaden's dragon, so now she's bonded to him, and she totally hates it, believe me, you guys. And then Dane kissed her?
Alright, I decided one more chapter and then I will reward myself with some video games because we have made progress. We're not quite halfway through, but we have made progress. Maybe I'll get a few chapters read tomorrow as well, but let's go. How long is this chapter? I hope it's short. Like, I want to make time through the book. Oh no, it's a long one. But I also don't want to read long chapters. Chapter 17, reading the quote. It is therefore only natural that the more powerful the dragon, the more powerful the signet the rider manifests. And we all remember that hers is the most powerful dragon. One should beware of a strong rider who bonds a smaller dragon, but even warier of the unbonded cadet who will stop at nothing to seize the chance to bond. This is such a contrived thing to make sure that we feel like our main character is still in constant danger. Even though so far that has not been working because she seems to be handling everything fine. She gets her own room now that she's a rider. Rhiannon's room is right across the hall because, you gotta have your bestie around. So you can go have girl talk and giggle and stuff. Oh boy. And when she goes to Rhiannon's room, now this time a guy, Sawyer, comes out because Rhiannon is bisexual. And how will we know that? Unless we see her engaging in sexual activities. We don't see the sexual activities, but it's very clear that that's what they were doing with men and women. This is why the horny bisexual trope exists, is because people are like, well, how will they know? How will people know that they're bi if they only get into one committed relationship? We can find out in other ways, did you know that I am bi-romantic and I've never been in a relationship with a woman? I'm open to it, should something happen to my husband, open to the idea. I just happened to fall for my husband first. That doesn't make me any less bi-romantic. She thinks about her ankle. If I were anywhere else, I would call for crutches. But that would put another target on my back. And according to Xaden, I already have a big enough one as it is. We gotta remember that our main character is in mortal danger at all times.
Also, we gotta love the boy who demands that she not use crutches. Why would you want to use a mobility aid when you're injured? Don't be ridiculous, Violet. You're being such a little wussy baby. Don't let anyone see your weakness by using reasonable accommodations.
If you have to rely on your reader feeling like your main character has people hunting her, could die at any moment, if you have to rely on that to keep your book interesting, maybe your book isn't that interesting, actually. She has been relieved of kitchen duty because the unbonded get to go do kitchen duty now, as if they don't have enough reason to hate her. So now she has to find out another way to sabotage her opponents. Oh, the girls together got to talk about, who are you romantically with, because that's what girls talk about. I do think this book has managed to pass the Bechdel test, which is, quite frankly, the lowest bar. The bar is on the floor with the Bechdel test. It's just two named female characters must have a conversation about anything besides a man. And because we have two named female characters, none of the other named female characters matter. And they have talked about things like fighting lessons and stuff. It does pass the Bechdel test. But again, as I say, if your book can't pass the Bechdel test, the bar is on the floor. You can't even just shuffle over it a little bit there. And of course, in this girly conversation, they're talking about Dane and the kiss because they did kiss in front of everybody. And she says, "It's not like that with us. I'd always hoped it would be, but when he kissed me, there was nothing there. Nothing." Which just is, once again, the trope of, you can't be sexually attracted to more than one person at a time. You can't enjoy kissing someone if they're not, the one. Now, of course, everybody's paired off. She keeps seeing couples everywhere she looks. We gotta get this romantic subplot kicked even further into gear. By the way, all of this, their dragons can, mentally hear everything that these characters think and talk about. So those poor dragons are just being subjected to the dumbest human conversations And also, like, sex thoughts. Like, we haven't heard anything about them taking classes to, like, shield their minds from the dragons yet. So Rhiannon's dragon, just like on their second day or whatever, has been subjected to her sex thoughts already. Wow. Rhiannon, again, the bisexual, her dragon mark is somewhere you'll never see. Hate it. Like, she has to be the most sexual one because she's bi. And so, of course, her dragon mark ends up presumably, like, maybe it's on her boob or, like, inner thigh or something, on her butt. Like, what are we saying here? Also now, because she should know, because she was poisoning people when she was on cooking duty. And now, the people on cooking duty are the ones that hate them and want them dead. If I was her, I would never eat the food from the cafeteria again. But I guess probably she's the only one here clever enough to poison somebody, so there's probably not actually any danger. Conversely, though, just so that we make sure that we also know that our main character is awesome, other riders are giving her a lot of deference and being like, yes, Soren Gale, and like getting out of her way and everything. And over somewhere else in the cafeteria, Jack is getting his comeuppance because nobody's respecting him anymore. He just got a plain old boring dragon.
Though the implication is that Jack got his boring old normal dragon after Violet had kicked his ass and injured him. So, like, are we wrong that dragons don't bond quote-unquote weak riders? Would this perhaps make Jack reconsider his stance on everyone weaker than him? No, of course not. We're not supposed to think about it. Stop thinking about things.
Oh, Imogen is here. You know what we have to describe now that Imogen is here? Imogen's personality trait is pink hair. Imogen blows her pink hair out of her face. We have a weird moment where it seems like maybe the main character is attracted to a girl, and I don't think she is. The author just decided to get real descriptive. This girl named Quinn sits down. Quinn tucks her blonde curls behind her ears and brushes her bangs out of her eyes, her round cheeks rising as she smiles at something Imogen says. I have to admit, the hooped piercings that line the shells of both of her ears are pretty awesome, and among her half-dozen patches, it's the dark green one, the same color as her eyes, with two silhouettes on it that's the most intriguing. Are we attracted to this girl? You usually don't get descriptions like that unless we're attracted to somebody. She talks about the patches that she got to get, and one of them is a special patch because her squad is this year's Iron Squad, which means they had the most surviving teammates after all of the shit went down. Oh, Quinn confirmed to be gay, so she's a possibility. I know she won't stand a chance, but still. Boy, everybody just wants to be her friend now. We have Imogen and her pink hair, lest we forget that her hair is pink. We have Quinn, and now we have Heaton and Emery, and yeah, we're just getting all of the popular kids are now hanging out with her. But our main character does remember. Hey, points to the author for the main character remembering this. She's eating only fruit for breakfast, and she's like, it's because the only thing I can be pretty sure hasn't been tampered with. And I'm like, yeah. But Imogen is like, here, you can have my sausages, but I don't know how she's so certain that her sausages weren't poisoned. Aren't all of them kind of in danger? Although maybe Imogen's not a first year. I don't know. It's kind of confusing. Taryn the dragon tells her that she can trust Imogen and her pink hair now, though. Now we're finding out everybody's powers. We've already got an airbender here. Imogen has decided to make our main character her project, and she's like, I'm going to help you with weights. We need to strengthen the muscles around your joints before the challenges can resume, even though, let's be real, her joints really haven't been a problem this entire time. But I'm going to start calling her Mommy Imogen from now on. I'm picturing her looking exactly like this. And I would like Imogen to princess carry me, please. We don't miss a beat with her having to then look over and see Xaden and think about how sexy he is. Wouldn't want to miss that. Stop trying to convince me that he's so dangerous. I don't believe you. You cannot just keep telling me this without ever showing it. She also figures out that Imogen is here to help her. Sorry, Mommy Imogen is here to help her because Xaden told her to. It's time for flight lessons today. So she's out here with her dragon, her super cool, awesome, badass dragon. She says she's bonded to the biggest and certainly the grumpiest dragon in the quadrant, but he hasn't even been very grumpy. She's been sassing him a lot, but he's not very grumpy. The dragon holds her in place with magic again. I don't know if this is always going to be a thing. It seems like it would be, like, logical. But also she's like, her thighs are already sore from yesterday, and I'm like, do you practice riding at all? Because, like, just horseback riding, which involves zero flying, you do not start out going fast. You master just walking first. You master your balance, your equitation, stuff like that first, and then you can move up to the faster gaits. So, like, have they done any kind of training to sit the dragon, or is magic just counted upon at this point? No, apparently you're not supposed to use magic. She's mad. She's like, how the hell am I supposed to be a rider if I can't stay on the damn dragon myself? Okay, but, like, you can't. You've already proven you can't. So, like, maybe him holding you on is some training wheels that you need until you can. I don't know. There's no saddles, no straps, nothing. I wrote a book that someday I hope to do something with wyvern riders in it. And they strap themselves to those fucking things because they're flying and they're going upside down. So he lets her go, and she of course falls, and he catches her again. But she's like, no, I have to learn to do this, and apparently the best way is just to fall off a bunch of times and not, like, slowly ramp up how much magic he's using to hold you on. So she just falls off a whole bunch of times, and he always catches her. So she falls off a bunch of times, and he catches her, and we don't know if she got any better, but we time jump to later in the sparring gym. She is completely over Dane. She is, like, all of her attraction to him is just gone. It's Thanos snapped out of existence, because Dane comes running up to her. I wait for the familiar swell of happiness that we might have a minute alone, but it doesn't come. What the hell is wrong with me? Dane is gorgeous and kind and a really, really good man. He's honorable and my very best friend, so why don't we have any chemistry? Because the writer of this book has decided you shouldn't. We have another I fold my arms across my chest. I know this is just a pet peeve, and having this in your book is not going to ruin it. But you can save yourself a couple of words by just saying, I fold my arms. Everybody knows that that means you fold them across your chest. So now that Dane is the undesirable boy, he's just, like, completely stuffy and rule following, and he's like, yeah, I actually can't be in a relationship with you because we're different years, and that's, like, frowned upon, even though it is not technically against the rules by my understanding. But all of a sudden, he's, like, super Mr. Must Follow the Rules guy, even though he was willing to break rules before to get her out of here. His personality has been slowly building to make him the undesirable one this whole time, and now the switch has flipped. Fortunately, she's saved by Mommy Imogen. There appears to be within this school a modern gym, like, you know, Gym Bro Gym, except for everything's made of wood. So that covers it. We can totally have all the machines that we would have nowadays, but if they're made of wood, that makes them fantasy. Like, she brought her over to one of those thigh master things, you know, where you squeeze with your thighs. The main character just has a rule that she must be the sassiest in the room at all times. She is hassling Imogen for no goddamn reason, when she should just keep her fucking mouth shut, but she will not be punished for sassing anyone and everyone. Like, I get when you want to have a sassy main character, but either they need to know when to keep their mouth shut sometimes, or they should be punished for their sassiness more often, and she never is. She thinks that Xaden and Imogen are lovers, even though Imogen is throwing off the most lesbian vibes you've ever seen in your goddamn life. And that's the end of the chapter. She just settles in to work out with Mommy Imogen. And I think that is where I'm going to stop for today. This is definitely making me feel like I want to get started on my next fantasy book, which is terrible because I need to not start drafting another new book. I have so many books to edit, and all I want to do is draft a new one. I totally have the idea. I have the main character. It's going to be similar enough to this one. Like, there's no dragons or anything like that. Well, there are dragons, but it's not a dragon school. But, like, it's a young woman who goes into the army, so it's similar enough to this, where I'm like, this is making me want to write that, and it's like, I must resist. So I'm going to go play video games or something and not think about that, or I will start drafting a book that I really should wait to draft. Thanks so much, and I will see you for the next chapter. Hi, hello, we're back on our bullshit. We're gonna read more of this. Sorry if it's a little bit dark, I just don't feel like playing with my camera settings right now. I only have limited time to film. We're on to chapter 18. Let's read the quote. There is nothing more sacred than the archives. Even temples can be rebuilt, but books cannot be rewritten. I mean, they can. Colonel Daxon's Guide to Excelling in the Scribe Quadrant. You know, it occurred to me that the Scribe and the Dragon Quadrant are like the only two that we get anything from. I don't even know what the other ones are called. I assume there are more. Is there a Merchant's Quadrant? I assume there are more. Maybe there's not. But we don't care about any of those. Like, the rest of society, aside from barely touching on the scribes and all things dragon, do not matter to this book. So it's been a month. We just have time skipped a month. And she's been assigned to archives duty. Okay. Dragon riders can be assigned to that for some reason. So now we do have our main character able to go back to, like, her old haunts, the library. Oh, we're meeting another character. Hooray. We're meeting a scribe, Jessinia. Name I will not remember. Oh, and she's deaf. Anytime there's diversity in books, people always claim you're filling out a checklist. But, like, this book could not feel more like a checklist if it tried. Wow, this could not be more divergent coded. The scribes, like, aren't supposed to smile. Like, they're supposed to be very serious all the time. And our main character, she gets to be free with her emotions because she joined Dauntless. Oh, sorry, I mean the Dragon Quadrant. Here's what I have written a deaf character before, and I made their dialogue italics inside of quotations to symbolize that they were signing. So that the first few times I would be like, the dialogue, and I would say they signed, but then I would stop doing that and then whenever a reader saw that it was italics inside of quotations, that means it was signed. But this author is just doing regular quotations and then feels the need to let you know every single line that they are signing. So, first one, I sign, Jessinia. Cadet Sorngale, she signs back. It's really good to see you, I sign. I knew you'd pass the test. Only because I studied with you for the past year, she signs back. We know that they're signing. I don't know. I like my way. Comment below what you think. How would you write a conversation between two characters who are using sign language? I'm trying to figure out why she's here, and I think I maybe have figured it out. She asks for a book for herself to go along with the books that she's getting for the Dragon Quadrant. The Fables of the Baron. So I betcha she's going to find a story in the Fables of the Baron that is going to prompt her next big idea or breakthrough or something. Oh, there's wyverns and venom in it, so that's why we need that book. Yeah, she sees one of her old professors and she keeps her face emotionless because she knows that's what he's used to. And I'm like, we had none of that at the beginning of the book. She had absolutely no issue showing emotion. She was not a fish out of water when it came to that. If she had been studying as a scribe for so long, why not have her be kind of stuffy and stoic, like she's saying that scribes are expected to be? I don't know, did we not have room for that at the beginning of the book? That would have given her some personality, some place to grow from, instead of just oh, I hate it here, oh, never mind, I love it here. It could be really interesting for her to realize, why aren't people responding to me the way that I want them to? Oh, yeah, right, I forgot that I'm allowed to show emotion on my face now, and I probably should. Oh, I know why we can't do italics for signing. It's because we're already doing italics inside quotations for the dragons talking to her. Again, the change that I would personally make, and this is just me, not me saying the book has to be this way or it's bad. Change that I would personally make is when the dragons are talking to her, keep it in just italics. Maybe even bold italics? That would be, yeah, because they're dragons, bold italics. And then signing quotations and italics. That's what I would do. Feel free to share what you would do in the comments below. I wish that this book was also better at letting us feel the main character's feelings. Because she says that even though she misses, being in the library that used to be her home, she really feels like the Writer's Quadrant is her new home, as dangerous as it is. And she really loves the adrenaline of flight. Apparently, flight is really great to her, but we have never once seen her seem to enjoy it. She's always stressed out, trying to hold on. She gives lots of descriptions of flying, but I would have never guessed that she loves the adrenaline rush of anything. She's always just struggling and just barely succeeding, and so I never get the idea that she's enjoying herself. And maybe that's one of the reasons that I don't believe her when she tells me that she wants to stay in the Writer's Quadrant, is because we don't see her loving it there. And I would love to see, when she's flying, her lose herself in just the joy of it. They could not find the book of fables that she wanted, and she realizes that she hasn't really been able to find any books about wyverns. The girls are catching up, and they're talking a little bit about like the things that have happened in the month. The wards are still faltering, villages are getting ransacked high in the mountains, riders are dying. But we don't want to forget the most important thing, like, yeah, all that's happening. But, girl, what about boys? What's going on with Dane?
So this feels like a good time to bring up what some other readers have pointed out, and that is the time jumps in this book do not help this book. Now, first of all, let me just say that I have no problem with time jumps in books. Sometimes you gotta have a time jump. Perfectly fine and reasonable thing to do. Except that this author keeps wanting to build up this world as so dangerous, so deadly, that every time we do a big time jump of like a couple months, are we meant to assume that just like nobody tried to kill Violet in that time and nothing of interest happened in this super hyper deadly dragon school? And also we've got these romances cooking in the background. Did she just go months without talking about or thinking about these boys? Like, are we saying that she goes from seeing Xaden basically every day, like she can't sneeze but Xaden is there in the background, to like not seeing him in any meaningful way for 2 months? Did he leave the school? I don't think so. I don't think he's really allowed to do that for any length of time. So, like, it's just not working for your romance. So this particular book, time jumps do not help it. In fact, they hinder it. And I really kind of wonder why the author did so many time jumps. I almost feel like it was maybe to just avoid the criticism that you often get of like, oh, they fell in love in a week and now they're married. Or in this one, you could complain, oh, she's only been in the dragon school for a week and she's already a master. But, like, it's a balance you gotta strike. Sometimes you've made decisions about your book, like that it's gonna heavily feature a romance and it's gonna heavily feature a super dangerous dragon school. So time jumps probably just aren't gonna work for you.
She goes back and eats lunch with her battle buddies, and we get a brief moment where she talks about, like, there's some people who won't sit with the people who are marked, the marked ones, and our main character is, of course, much better than that, and she will sit with anybody. We find out that Sawyer can manipulate metals, so he's basically Magneto. I don't know anything else about Sawyer. Apparently their powers just manifest any old time and could potentially get people killed, which I would say, you know, more horrifying implications, but for this place, par for the course. Apparently, Xaden hasn't said a word to her since the threshing, somehow. It's been a month. I don't know how he's managed that, but I'm sure he's been brooding at her very intensely. Okay, so my question is answered. It's November now, and they do live in a place where it gets cold in the winter, so yeah, Dragon School has decided that the best time to train their young recruits is in the middle of winter. Why not? This Dragon School doesn't make any sense anyway.
Is it supposed to be stupid?
It's not stupid. It's advanced.
Here's going to be a real test if this author really knows their stuff, and I'm certain that they won't. But, little fun factoid, if you're horseback riding in the winter, we have this thing, like, people have different names for it. Some people call it, like, glass legs or something like that, where when you get off the horse and you land, your legs are in horrible pain. It basically feels like your legs are made of glass and they're shattering. And that would be a really cool and interesting detail for this author to throw in when she gets off of her dragon. I don't see that coming, but like, just something to think about, like little details like that. If you know something like obscure like that, that'll make your world seem even more believable and real. Just in case we've forgotten that our main character has special girl hair, her dragon calls her Silver One. We have a whole sequence where Dane comes over and her dragon, Taryn, for some reason, flips into overprotective dad mode and is like, if Dane harms you, I will scorch the earth where he stands. Tell him that. And I don't know what this sequence is here for, because Dane has never harmed her. She would have no reason, like if the dragon can sense her emotions, he would have no reason to think that she has anything to fear from Dane. Like, why is he being so grouchy and overprotective? Every single time we hang out with Dane, like, this author is really determined to make us hate Dane. It's very poorly disguised. Dane is immediately like, why didn't you tell me you can't stay on the dragon, and like grabbing her, and it's like, we get it. We get it. He's supposed to be the undesirable one. Okay, like, can he be a perfectly fine human who she just happens to not want to date? Does he have to be grabby and overprotective? So we've decided to go full hate on Dane, and so there's just a couple of pages of this just back and forth where he is just being an absolute overprotective fuckboy, and she is deeply insulted by all of it, and we're supposed to be like on her side, like, yeah, you tell him. And it's like, even though he's pointing out things like, hey, you're my best friend and I don't want you to die, now we're supposed to hate him for his like care and affection, even though if it was my best friend, I don't care how many times I have to be overprotective and worried about them. They're my best friend. You know, like, he's going about it in a creepy way. But, like, no, we hate him now. We hate him now. This is, like, the turn. This is the switch that flips for all of these, like, characters that are supposed to be the one that the main character's not supposed to end up with. Is this who you really are at your core? She's saying to him. Someone so enamored with the rules that he doesn't know when to bend or break them for someone he cares about? Someone who's so focused on the least I'm capable of doing, he can't believe that I can do so much more? I mean, yeah, but he's right. You are falling off of your dragon a whole fucking lot. Yes, you're getting stronger, but you are still falling off of your dragon a lot. And of course, we don't get any times when they hang out and are, like, friendly to each other. No times when we get to see why they were best friends, why they were a good fit. We just have him in, like, ultimate simp, overprotective white knight mode. I would much rather have a character who's got some depth and some levels to him, where we're like, he's a nice person, he's trying his best, and she just ultimately decides that they wouldn't make a good couple, instead of just like, no, we have to make him as loathable as possible so that she can go for dark, broody McBrood face over there, who again has not done anything. Aside from wearing black, having shadow powers, and being growly, he has not done anything. The one time she caught him at a clandestine meeting, it turned out to just be planning for a study session. So she tells him off and storms away. Oh, of course. Oh my god. So his protectiveness, Xaden's protectiveness is fine. Sexy even. So they get out to to the courtyard, and it seems like one of their fellow classmates is like coming into their powers, and they're screaming and freaking out. We don't know what's happening yet, but she notices that Xaden has put himself in between her and the potential danger. Apparently in the midst of this, though, this boy is freaking out. Dane is still thinking, he's not wondering what's going on or like, is this kid okay? He's thinking, is Violet going to hate me forever? Why can't she see that I just want to keep her alive? Apparently, though, this power is a death sentence. I guess probably because everybody goes crazy. Ah, our character's powers of memorization are coming back up again. Xaden is like, quick, Violet, start thinking about inane bullshit that you remember from your time in this scribes quadrant. And she's like, oh damn, you're right. Finally the professor comes out, sees that the kid is just like melting down, and the professor just cracks his neck and kills him. That's the end of that scene. And then we've got, I think I jumped back in time because she's like with her dad. So she has a little memory with her dad where the author does a way too little, way too late thing of hinting that maybe baby Violet wanted to be a dragon rider after all, and her dad discouraged it. But like, that's not enough. If you wanted to have that be like part of her personality, you needed to put that in the actual like book that we experienced. But the dream doesn't last very long because her dragon commands that she wakes up. This is confusing because it seems like she's under attack, but aren't they, like, not allowed to kill each other in their sleep? I thought that was a rule. There were 7 people came into her room to kill her. 7 people. Fortunately, our main character literally wears her dragon scale armor to bed. So she's fine. They, like, tried to stab her and it didn't work. Fortunately, our main character is just a badass. She's fighting off 7 people in an enclosed space. They do eventually get her through sheer numbers, but, like, she was doing okay. Her dragon assures her that he's almost there, and I have good money on who this he is going to be. But perhaps before she is rescued, her other little dragon friend gives our main character her magic power, and we don't know what it is yet, but everybody in the room is just, like, frozen. And that's the end of the chapter. Exciting, exciting. So will Xaden burst into the room, or will our main character have just saved herself with dragon power? We'll find out next time, because I have chores I need to do for right now. I'll see you for the thrilling next chapter.
Well, hello. It's that time again. You know what time it is, that's right. It's the time where I'm obnoxious and remind you all that I'm a developmental editor. But listen, I'm a freelancer and nobody else is going to advertise for me, so it's got to be me advertising for myself. Did you know that I offer 2 types of developmental editing now? So there's one type, which is my standard, which is the incredibly thorough line-by-line edit, where I'm going to tell you things on the micro and macro levels. I'm going to be on the lookout for things like word repetition, as well as things like your plot not working. But if that's more than you're looking for at this time, I also have what I call a developmental read, where it's more what you'd expect from standard developmental editing, because I am very extra. With a developmental read, I will read through your story and give you a developmental letter at the end, which is an overview of things that I noticed. So I will only be doing things on the macro level. Is the plot working? Are the characters working? Does the ending work? The beginning work? Does everything flow smoothly? And any other larger story-based things that I noticed. Obviously, these 2 developmental styles come at different price points, so choose whichever one works best for you.
We're back. Somebody mentioned that they wanted to see more of the bingo card so we can tell like what has been checked off, and like while I could do all of the work of scanning this every single time that we get a new X, that's not going to happen. So we are just gonna show it to you. So far we have main character as the special, awkward language choices, confusing world building under world building in sight, horrifying implications, which we got almost immediately. Do you think your reader is dumb? Unhinged bullies, paper thin characters, and info dump. Something I was thinking about with this book, these little dragons. I don't know why I didn't realize this before, but you remember how in Divergent, Triss gets those birds, that bird tattoo, and that became really iconic and was like on merch and people got that tattooed on themselves and everything. This, same thing. Like, it's this same thing but dragons, and I'm certain that people are getting these little dragons tattooed on themselves. Another thing I was thinking about is like, I can't quite put my finger on articulating some of the issues that I'm having with this book, because like it's readable and it's fine. It's definitely not as bad as far as just like readability and plot as like Lightlark, because Lightlark was all over the place and the author just like stopped scenes. Like scenes didn't end, they just stopped. But I was like, the characters really aren't doing it for me, and I think one of the issues, too, is with the world and the author's insistence that everything be so life-threatening for the main character all the time. In fact, we left her in a life-threatening situation, that it doesn't leave room for her to fail very often. Like, she still kind of can. She sort of lost her first wrestling match, but the rest of the time it's life or death. So her fail state is death. So we really don't have many opportunities for her to just fail so she can grow as a character. Every really dangerous situation that she's in, and even some of the ones that shouldn't be dangerous, she has to win, because otherwise she will die. And I think that makes her a less interesting, less dynamic character in the long run. Seeing characters fail is part of seeing them grow, and if she always wins, like, hey, yay, at least she's fighting her own battles. At least she's not being constantly damseled. But at the same time, like I said, because she's always fighting for her life, she never has any opportunity to get it wrong. That's why I think this, like, trend of, like, hyper deadly magical schools is not doing us any favors. Like, I don't know why we seem to think that for a book to be engaging, everybody always has to be trying to kill the main character. There are other things that you can do with your main character and their conflicts besides the threat of imminent death. Anyway, let's carry on. Speaking of imminent death, we're on chapter 19. In response to the Great War, dragons claimed the western lands and the griffins the central ones, abandoning the barons and the memory of General Darimor, who nearly destroyed the continent with his army. Boy, I don't care. Our allies sailed home and began a period of peace and prosperity in the provinces of Navarre, united for the first time behind the safety of our wards under the protection of the first bonded riders. So, this sounds like we just flew off and made ourselves a gated community, and I don't know if that's ever going to be interrogated. This big, prosperous city that essentially just put up walls around it. I don't think we're interested in that, but maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. A few things have surprised me slightly in this book by not going exactly the way I thought they would. They're still very predictable, but a few of the details have been different than I thought. So as you recall, everybody is frozen in place. Time-stopping abilities, that sounds real fucking useful. Oh, apparently it's not her abilities, it's the dragon's, so maybe she hasn't quite manifested her powers yet. I don't exactly know how it works, but the dragon is like, quick, I can't hold it. That being her second dragon at Andarna. Andarna. Oh god, it's Andy! Apparently there's a clock on her desk, so not only do they have clocks, they have desk clocks, but it has stopped ticking, so time is officially frozen. Xaden did arrive. Okay, he's just a little bit too late because her dragon saved her instead, but he's in the doorway like a dark, avenging angel. Apparently we have angels in this world. We are just really not careful in most of these fantasy books that I read about using terms like angel. Maybe this is just me. I try to be really careful about doing that stuff in my books. If they don't have angels in their world, I don't use angels as a figure of speech. I wouldn't say an avenging angel, you know, because they don't have them. That opens a whole kettle of fish about their religion that they have angels. Most authors of this kind of book don't care. I care, though. I care. It's those little details about my world building that I really actually do quite care about. Xaden, of course, completely takes the time skip in stride. Like, she's in front of him, and he just, like, looks at her for, like, a millisecond and is like, well, that happened, and just carries on. Okay, I was right. It is against the code to attack another writer in their sleep, so I don't know what they thought they were doing. Like, why would a dragon choose them if they killed her in her sleep?
Nothing about this whole the unbonded will try to kill you and steal your dragon thing makes any sense, because all we ever see about the dragon-rider relationship is that it is very close. These dragons are not some inscrutable being who just makes decisions on a whim, looking at who's strongest. All that we see, all the proof that we get throughout this book very strongly indicates that a dragon would never bond with the person who had just killed their rider. Some dragons die of sadness when their rider dies. Now, granted, they have known their rider for longer, but still, we are in Violet's head, and we know her dragon, and he already likes her a whole friggin' lot, and we can only assume that everybody else's dragon feels the same way. So it just doesn't make any sense that it would work for these unbonded kids to steal her dragon that way.
So Xaden is all being just the most intimidating and lethally soft tone, and, you know, all of those very sexy, scary things. Xaden prowls forward. I want to see him do that. So he's got all these people in his shadow grip, and several of them are already dead or unconscious, doesn't matter. And he prowls towards the last guy like, yeah, I'm so sexy. I wonder what we're doing with the character of Bodhi, who is Xaden's cousin. Is he being earmarked for, like, Rhiannon eventually, perhaps? Because she keeps remarking on how much he looks like Xaden, but obviously Xaden is the one she's going to go for. So, like, why does he, A, have a cousin, B, one that looks so much like him? Just speculating here, I like to do that. Is she maybe going to mistake the cousin for Xaden further down the line? Like, the cousin's going to do a betrayal, and she's going to think that it was Xaden because they look so similar? Or do they look similar so that she and her friend can both get equally hot guys? Or is it just a coincidence and the author just wanted to have two Xadens wandering around? Put your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think they're doing with Bodhi, who looks exactly like Xaden? And Xaden tells his two friends, Garrick and Bodhi, who came rushing in after him, that they're on body cleanup duty.
That's why you came to me. Isn't it, Captain? Because you knew I could do those things that you weren't capable of doing.
By the way, this is the first time, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, that we've seen Xaden kill anybody. And she keeps going on and on about how deadly he is. But we have seen Jack kill more people than we have seen Xaden kill up until this point. And the only reason he killed them is because they were attacking her. I really want to know if he would come running to the rescue of anybody else who was about to be murdered in their sleep, and would he ruthlessly kill their attackers? At least, one thing Xaden has going for him is he's not cold to the touch. His fingers are warm under her chin as he's doing that whole, angling her chin up thing for the sexiness. And I'm like, thank God, because I'm so tired of all of these hot, broody boys who are also just like freezing cold. I just don't get the allure. Once again, I remind us that she has worn her armor to bed underneath her nightdress. Why? I mean, like, obviously it came in handy, but the rule is that you're not allowed to kill other people in your sleep. So why is she wearing armor to sleep under her nightdress? It just seems super fucking uncomfortable to me. I'm sure this is very sexy to some people, because, like, this is the sort of dialogue that people find sexy. Oh, you allosexuals are so easy, I've said it before. She says she's fine. His focus snaps back to my eyes. Never lie to me, he says with such ferocity. Yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody is just swooning over this. He says fucker a lot, and, like, to me that is not, like, how a sexy guy talks. I don't know, call me old-fashioned, but if I'm gonna have a dark, broody, sexy man, like, that word just seems too abrupt, too sharp. It's, like, not how he would talk. Does that make sense? It's just weird. Every time he says it, it just doesn't seem to fit. By the way, while we're having this intimate moment where he's like, let me see your bruised ribs and growl sexily at you, there's still dudes dragging dead bodies out of her room. They have now finished dragging the corpses out of her bedroom so that she and Xaden can be shut inside and have this sexy moment. She wore a corset to bed because she's undressing now, and she says, you'll have to, and he says, I know how to handle a corset. No, she fucking didn't. No, she fucking didn't wear a corset to bed. This implies that she wears a corset to bed every night. Now, I am team corset. I'm not one of those people who, like, all corsets are evil and were invented to torture women. Corsets were underwear. Only tight-laced corsets were dangerous, for the most part. Well-fitted corsets should be comfortable and are made to be moved in and breathed in and all of that stuff. Okay, but we're not going to go on that. Even the most comfortable corset would not be worn to bed. I just have no words for the level of idiocy that I just read here on this page. No, she fucking didn't wear a corset to bed. Rebecca. No.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
She's once again getting all hot and bothered, which of course she is. Of course she is. He basically has to breathe in her direction. Okay, so she says that he asks how she gets herself into the corset every morning, which women have been putting themselves in corsets for much of history. But she says, I'm freakishly flexible. It's part of the whole bone snapping, joints tearing thing. Which, yes, hyperflexibility is a symptom of the disability that my daughter and my husband's best friend also have. But we have not seen this whole, like, joints tearing, bone snapping thing come up. Like, it feels like every time that she injures herself, for the most part, except for when she walked over a twig, have just been, like, normal. They would that would normally, anyone would have broken a limb in that situation, and it really, again, her disability does not seem to slow her down at all. I don't understand this either. Like, in all of these romantic books, the female lead has to wonder how many other women the man that she likes has been with. And I don't know why you care. I guess it matters to some people, but, like, I guess maybe they want to know the score, or we, the reader, want to know the score, so we know, like, how many other girls has he set aside to choose you. Like, maybe that adds to the special feeling. Like, he had so many other partners before, and he chose you to be his, like, long-term partner. I don't know. Allosexuals, feel free to chime in the comments. He's being very sweet, and she's, of course, stunned, because she still thinks that he's, like, a jackass who hates her, and now he's, like, helping her put her boots on and buttons up her coat like she's something precious. And I'm just like, ma'am, you made up this whole thing where he wants you dead in your head. This is never, he has been making googly eyes at you, dark, broody, googly eyes, since day one. She keeps trying to reassure us that he hates her, even as he's doing this, and I'm just like, where's the proof, ma'am. He glares at everybody. The fact that he glared at you a couple of times doesn't make a lot of difference. She wonders how he knew that she was in danger, and I'm like, well, that seems pretty obvious, because your dragon knew that you were in danger, and your dragon and his dragon are a couple. So all your dragon had to do was look at his dragon and be like, hey, let your guy know, and then he could go save her. I mean, probably it's going to turn out that there's an even deeper link that they share, but like, that one seems pretty obvious. She's so horny for him. Oh my god. They're sneaking down the hallway and she thinks, not that I wouldn't climb the man like a tree if presented with the right circumstances. Will you settle down? She is so thirsty. She is so thirsty. I'm too asexual for this. By the way, he's now dragging her through the school for some reason, but he's holding her hand, so... He's gone full Phantom of the Opera. He's taken her down into a hidden passage in the school. I'm waiting for organ music to start. You remember when I played you that clip about why we love enemies to lovers from Jill Barrop? I'll play it again.
It's a completely unremarkable power fantasy. Because you see, it doesn't matter at which part of the process they're at. It doesn't matter if they're the main character's love interest or if they're her enemy. At all points in the process, they are taking her seriously. Very, very seriously.
This book is exactly that. This is a prime example of that. It basically spells it out for you. I'm not going to baby you like Aetios does. That being Dane. He doesn't baby me. He does, and you know it. You hate it too. If the vibe I'm picking up is any indication. Yes, such fantasy language, my goodness. That whole he takes her seriously, that's not subtext in this book. That's text. We are supposed to prefer him because, like, yes, he still comes to her rescue, but he does it in a way that takes her seriously, versus Dane does it in a way that doesn't take her seriously. I do not understand why this isn't just young adult, because it is so clearly written for young adults. It reads so young. I keep forgetting how old she's supposed to be because she acts like your stereotypical 17-year-old protagonist. So I just don't know what we were going for with her being like 20. Yeah, she says, I was asleep. That's the only time we're supposed to be guaranteed safety around here. Then why were you wearing your armor? If you legitimately thought that you were guaranteed safety, why'd you wear your armor to bed? Also, why did you wear your corset to bed? So many questions for this girl. No wonder you're so uncomfortable all the goddamn time. Now they're just full-on flirting. So it turns out he's taking her all the way outside. He's marching this girl who has bruised ribs out in the middle of the night to have a word with her dragon about how those other people managed to get into her room, which was locked. They had to bypass her locks and attack her in her sleep, two things which she did not think could happen, yet she still wore her armor to bed.
Again, if this was a sort of book where the character could be vulnerable and fail, she would go to sleep thinking that she was safe here, that she wouldn't be attacked in her locked room at night because that's illegal. And she would not have her armor on when they came to attack her and make for a much more tense and intense scene. Instead, this girl is constantly wearing one layer of plot armor at all times, and it really just kind of takes away from it. Again, it's just another way that the author can make sure that her main character is like always the best, always somehow in mortal danger and yet completely protected at the same time.
She points out that he got to her room really fast and also he's fully dressed. And I'm like, ma'am, you wore armor and a corset to bed. For all you know, he sleeps that way. She manages to make him smile with the dumbest of snarky lines. They've been snarking back and forth this whole time. It's really not the best snark. I do like me some snarky dialogue, but between these two, it's just pretty cringe. She manages to make him smile with some random snarky line, and it's his first genuine smile she's ever seen. So they come out of the secret tunnel.
Secret tunnel, secret tunnel.
On the open dragon field through the well-concealed doorway that Xaden totally has. So Taryn, her dragon, and Xaden are having a back and forth about how, like, she totally would have died if I hadn't made it there in time, and she's just astonished that Xaden can talk to her dragon. So it turns out that they can talk to each other's dragons because their dragons are mates. Unsurprising, but also because their dragons are mates, apparently, like, the bond is just real fucking serious between the humans, the human riders of dragons who are mates. He says, we're chained, tethered, you die, I die. goddamn, I think we would try to prevent this in that case, because then you can lose 2 riders and 2 dragons if just one of them dies. You think there would be rules about, like, if dragons are mated to each other, then one of those mates is just off limits. Alright, so we're finding out a whole bunch of stuff. New lore just dropped, alright? So it turns out that, I'm gonna call her Andy, the little dragon. Her name is hard to pronounce. A lot of A's and N's. The little dragon, the golden one, can transfer her powers wholesale to the main character, because normally how dragon magic works is that once a human is bonded to a dragon, that allows the human to use their own personal power, which is like a reflection of themselves. But the little dragon has just given her magical powers over to the main character, and it turns out that she can do that because she is still a feathertail, meaning she is a baby dragon. She's 2 years old, and apparently dragons mature faster, which is not usually something you see. It's another convenience for this book. Normally dragons live a really long time, so they mature really slowly. A lot of stuff going on here, a lot of stuff with the magic system, and it's all very weird. Xaden gets upset because he thinks that his dragon went and had a baby without informing him, but no, as I kind of expected, little Andy is adopted. The main character is sympathetic, and little Andy is like, that's okay, and the main character thinks, like, she knows it's not because she lost her dad, but, like, in dragon culture, like, you don't know how important having parents is. Do the 2 parents raise the baby like humans do? Or does the whole clan raise the baby and it doesn't really matter who their parents are? That's another thing that we can do as authors of fantasy books, is think about the cultures of races that are not human and how they differ from human cultures. By the way, her dragon is totally privy to the horny thoughts that she is having about Xaden right now. Finally, little baby Andy reveals that she stopped time, which we all know, but apparently the main character didn't figure out because, like, nobody has time magic in this world. So now I'm curious, though. Okay, so the main character has access to very short-lived time-stopping powers, like 30 seconds, thanks to the little baby dragon. But the little baby dragon will eventually become an adult dragon. And with adult dragons, they can't give their powers over wholesale like this. So when Andy becomes an adult dragon, will the main character no longer have access to time powers? Or because she made this bond while Andy was a baby dragon, will she always have access to time powers? The magic system is very confusing. I'm going to give this confusing magic system if I haven't already. Baffling magic system. We are giving it baffling magic system. We are not really close to, oh, we are close to a bingo. We need, if we're going to get a bingo all the way down this side, we still need girl hate, but I don't know if we're going to get that. This book, at least, even though it has unhinged bullies, we don't have a whole lot of girl hate going on. Like, she didn't like Imogen, Mommy Imogen, and her pink hair, but I don't think that really counted as, like, girl hate necessarily, because, like, she kind of hated everybody in that group. She's worried that when people find out that she can stop time, they're also going to kill her, like they killed the guy who could read minds. Why would they? Just because, again, this, if main character was the special wasn't crossed off, it would be now, because, like, this, nobody else has ever had this power. So she's like, they're going to kill me when they find out I have this amazing power. And I'm like, why would they? This is a super useful power. They wouldn't kill you. They'd want to use you. They would want to send you to the front lines as soon as possible so you could combine with the general's ability to predict how battles are going to go. But instead, Xaden is like, no one will know. We'll never tell anyone. Okay, so yeah, he says that most feathertail gifts disappear with maturity when they begin to channel. None of that makes any sense. All of it is just so contrived so that we can have this situation. Like, why would dragons be able to have one cool ability until they become adults where that ability goes away and they get a different cool ability, but only if they have dragon riders? Why would that develop in this world of magic? Why? Why would that ever magically evolve? So now she and Xaden are walking back, and she's still struggling in her mind to make up reasons not to trust this guy who's literally never done anything except help her and be kind of a jerk a little bit. But she's like, oh, can I trust him? He was a rebel. Like, ma'am, oh, we are grasping for reasons to have our main character still, like, not trust or dislike this guy when there's no reason for it. Aside from the fact that she just has to for the book because they can't trust each other quite yet. Also, I would love to see her be betrayed more often by people she thought were friends before this point. Because she's like, how can I trust him? We can't trust anybody here. Everyone's out for their own devices. And at the beginning of the book, we had her sister being like, make allies, not friends. And she's made several friends here, only one of which even gets something resembling a personality. But we have named characters whose names reoccur on the page. And none of them have betrayed her yet. Everyone she has trusted has been trustworthy. If she had made some friends who have then betrayed her before this point, she would have a lot more reason to be like, yep, everybody here is out for themselves, and I can't trust Xaden because he's definitely just doing this for his own ends. But since everyone she's befriended so far has been her friend, we are really just grasping at the thinnest possible straws to try to figure out reasons why she shouldn't trust Xaden still. Also, they went to where the dragons were to find out, like, how did those cadets get into your room? They also wanted to know about the powers, but he was like, how did all of those people get into your room? And the dragons are like, we have no idea. So the mystery remains. But she remembers, oh yeah, like at the last second here, she remembers, oh, I saw somebody else, a full-fledged rider who opened the door and then ran away when everybody else came in to kill me. And the chapter ends with Xaden being like, who is it? Who? So, we can have our cliffhanger. But that was the end of that chapter, and I am going to go make some lunch, and maybe I'll film more today, maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll find out if I'm wearing these same clothes.
You're kidding. What a crazy random happenstance.
What a crazy random happenstance that all my patrons are here. Allow me to list them out for you. I'm going to do it in reverse order this time, just to be different. Sarah, Lisa, Amanda, Jenny, Savvy, Scribbling Cat, Rennie, Jesper, Zaire, Shelby, Ray, Callison, Anne Sophie, Patrick, Belle, The Unraveled Legion, Light Julie, Hidden Glade, Kit, Merween, Sophia, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Melissa, Afra, Deborah, Rita, Alyssa, Celia, Amanda, Lafone, KJ, Caitlin, Ursula, Robin, Jojo Bookish, Bear, Kirsten, Maria, Mooney, Kohikaro, Kira, Sam, Haley, Julius the Nice Dragon, Pansing Pony, Roma, Ingrid, Veda, 78 kilograms of shade, Kat, Sarah, Saga, Nico, Sunnyshy, Bird Anonymous, and July. Why was it easier for me to read all their names reading upwards instead of downwards? I am too dyslexic for this world.